Tuned in to IntellectualRadio-Podcast.
And welcome to the Great Business Skills Show here on IntellectualRadio.com. And I'm your host, Dr. Anthony L. Gann, here for another on the station that feeds your brain. So I'm going to do my part here to feed your brain this evening here on again on the Great Business Skills Show. So while you're looking at me, if you're new to the show, well, why don't you? I would like you to hit the subscribe button there on the screen there, and also shows from spiritual shows, business shows, relationship shows, political shows, entertaining shows, comedy shows. So we got a lot of different shows, a lot of great hosts. So I'm sure there's a good 5 or 10 hosts that you would like to be connected with and follow on other platforms as well. So again, this is the Great Business Skills Show. And before I get started, I'm going to promote someone. And if you'd like to get promoted on my show, or this show, or the show, get in contact with me at fullerpurposemedia@gmail.com, and then we can talk about it and see what we can do and see if my show fit what you have going on in regards to your business or product or service that you have. So I'm going to promote Mr. Emmett Farmer this evening. And are you 65 and older or know someone who is in need of Medicare assistance? Mr. Emmett Farmer is a licensed life and health insurance producer and an independent insurance broker. He can be reached at 773-908-9425 or eFarmer, eFarmer2, the number 2, at ameritech.net. Mr. Emmett Farmer specializes in Medicare plans for seniors 65 and older. Also, if you are disabled and have Medicare, he can help you as well. He is licensed in Illinois, Texas, and in the process of being licensed in other states also. If you are 65 and older, or if you will become 65 within the next 6 to 12 months, contact Mr. Emmett Farmer to learn more about your available options. Again, for more information, contact Mr. Emmett Farmer at 773-908-9425 or eFarmer2, eFarmer, the number 2, eFarmer2 at ameritech.net. You will also get a free consultation by mentioning that you heard about Mr. Emmett Farmer and his business here on the Great Business Skills Show, again, here on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeart Station. So anywhere you get your podcast, you can hear any of our shows. Also, this show here is also recorded, so you can hear the show anytime you like. So you can go back and listen to any of the shows I have here. You can go to, when you go to IntellectualRadio.com, you can go to the Great Business Skills Show, and all the shows on Great Business Skills shows will show up, and you can go through those anytime you like. And also a Greater Youth Show, you can do the same. And we have playlists and everything. And then you can follow other hosts. If you know some hosts and you know their name, you can just type it in there when you go to IntellectualRadio.com, and then their shows will pop up and you can look at their shows as well. So just wanted to let you know that. So let's get started. Again, if you're new to me and new to IntellectualRadio.com, let me just share with you what this show is about. It's a business skills show. And we have a series that goes on. And during the series, we have different sessions. And it's based on a book that I've written on that particular session. So this particular series is on speaking better in public. This is part 4 of this series, and based on the book All Eyes on Me, Public Speaking Made Simple. So, and obviously you want to purchase the book and get in contact with me at fullerpurposemedia@gmail.com. So let me do a recap. Again, if you're new to me, I always do a recap of the shows that we have just so you can catch you up to pretty much where we are, so everything won't sound as foreign since this is part 4. So session 1, we came from lesson 1 in the book, and we talked about glossophobia. And glosso is a Greek word, and it means tongue, and phobia means fear or dread. And what it means is that you fear or dread speaking in public, not that you fear or dread talking in personally. You just have a fear of speaking in front of people personally. So we talked about how it's important to be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else when you're standing in front of people. Just be you. That's okay. You are more than welcome to be yourself. And just keep in mind, like we said in session 1, that the audience wants you to win. They want you to succeed. So they're not rooting for you to lose. They're rooting for you to win. Then we talked about in session 2, we talked a little bit about, we came from lesson 5 in the book. And we talked about how, what are you there for? You're there to actually deliver a message. And the message is always bigger than the messenger. You are a messenger, and your job is just to deliver a message to the people that's listening to you or watching you speak. So you always want to make sure you're smaller than the message. If you ever become bigger than the message, that means you are in the way of a big message that can do big things for people. And that means that your message is going to be small and that means that you got in the way of the message. So your ego probably got in the way. So we don't want to make sure that we're just there to deliver a message. Just like a delivery person or a mail person, they just there to deliver the package. What's most important is the package, not the delivery person. Even though the delivery person is important, they're not more important than that package, right? So that's the same way here. When you're speaking in front of people, you're delivering a message. And then we also talked about how we don't want to waste the time of people. And when you're up there speaking in front of people, they're giving you something that you can never get back, which is their time. And so you want to make it worth their time because you can never give them that hour back, that 15 minutes back, or whatever it is that you spoke on or during the time that you had. Session 3, we came from chapter lesson 10 in the book, and we talked about the 3 elements of speaking in public, you, the content or subject matter, and also the audience. And it's all about the content, right? You got to have some content. And then it's all about the audience. It's a big old spotlight on whoever getting the most attention. You don't want the spotlight to be on you. Speaking in front of people is not an interview. You're not talking and interviewing yourself, right? You actually are there trying to share the content or the subject matter that you're there to deliver. And then obviously you want to make sure the subject matter and the audience, it can get married together because it's all about the content and all about the audience. It's not all about you at all, right? You're the delivery person. So today, we're going to come from lesson 13 in the book. And we talked about how to turn your mess into a message earlier, and how, when you're in a mess and you spend some time in a mess is chaotic, age, time. So you spend some time in a mess. So that's why you have a message. And so since you spend time in a mess and you have a message, everything about a mess is not good, right? We're trying to make a positive impact in the lives of people that hear us. And we're also trying to be effective when we're speaking to people in a public setting. Whether you're speaking to 5 people or 5,000 people, you're still trying to do this. Whether you're live physically in the same space or you're doing something virtually, you're still trying to do the same things. So we want to talk about how do you turn something that's bad, because messes are bad. How do you turn that a mess into something good, right? Because when you talk about something that's messy, you don't usually think of something that's really good. So one thing you want to do, you always want to try to find the good in what you're trying to speak about. Because when people are in a mess, they're trying to get out, right? So you don't want to spend all the time talking about the mess that they're in, because the reality, they're trying to get out of the mess that they're in. And that's why you need it. Like we stated once, your subject matter, sub means under, ject means to throw. So your content or your message is what you're throwing up under the lives of people so they can stand on something. And what they're standing on is what's going to help them get out the mess that they're in. So you have to address some of the messy, stinky stuff, and that identifies with people, but you can't stay there long because you got to tell me how to get out of this mess. You're trying to tell me how to get my finances together, and I've been in bankruptcy 4, 5, 6 times, right? I don't want to hear about the ways to get to bankruptcy because I've already done that, right? You're trying to tell me how to get into a better relationship, and I had 5, 10 different relationships, or been married 4, 5, 6, 7 times. I don't really need to know how to go to divorce court, right? I need to get out of the way. How do I get into a better relationship? If I'm overweight, I don't need you to tell me how, diabetes is going to get me, my heart is failing, and all these things. I don't need you to tell me that. I'm already there in that. I need you to tell me what I need to do to get away from this and lose the weight so I can live a healthier life, right? So you have to get me, you address the issue, but you have to actually show me how to get out of this mess. And hopefully you've been through this mess yourself, because we already said you need to know what you're talking about. If you haven't done it, then it's probably not a good idea for you to talk about it, right? Doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Just talk on what you know so you know what you're talking about, right? So if you know what you're talking about, talking on what you know, then you should be able to help me get out of this mess that I'm in. Now, when you're speaking in front of people and you're trying to turn something good into something, or something bad into something good, you may have to say it in different ways, right? And sometimes you may say it one way, it may resonate with some groups of people, but then you may have to say the same thing in a different way and so it can resonate with another group of people. Now, some people may think that you're being repetitious, and here's the reality: you are, because you're trying to come up with as many ways to say something as you possibly can, so that people can actually get out of their mess. This is what you're really doing. You're trying to make your point, right? Because when you make your point, you don't need 25 points in this thing. You need one major point, right? Now, when you have a point, for instance, that's your central theme. So here's an example. We'll put it on money. 5 ways to get your finances together, right? That's your point. You're going to show me 5 ways to get my finances together, right? So when you're talking about this, that's your major point. Now, your major point, you're going to have your central theme, which is the 5 ways to get out of, get financially free or whatever. And then you have these sub points, like open up a bank account, contact your financial person, or whatever it may be, right? So you may give me these sub points. So your sub points are the legs to the table, because your main point is the table. So the table, like this is the table. And this table here has legs on it. Well, your main point, your central thing, right? The point you're trying to make is this table. However, my sub points would be the legs to the table. So the sub points is what hold up the main point, right? And the main reason why this is important, because this is the central theme, or this is the thing that I'm going to say certain things in a different way to emphasize that main point that I'm trying to get to you, right? So the main point is helping you get financially free, or whatever, using my example. If I'm using something on being a better parent or being a parent in general, my main point is how to be involved with your children's schoolwork, right? That's your main point, right? So that's now my main point, how to get involved with their schoolwork. So I can't say how to get involved with their schoolwork and how to help them do something else that may be a main point. You don't want to have two main points in the actual presentation, especially if you don't have a long time to talk, right? So if you only have a short time to talk. Now, wait, let me reiterate something I reiterated before, is that this is not based on trying to do a pitch, right? We're not trying to do a 30-second pitch. That's not what I'm teaching you here. That's good and that's fine for what it's used for. We're actually saying we want to speak for a while, and we're really not talking about speaking for 5 minutes. We're talking about giving some time and giving some time on the stage or in front of people, that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Well, you're going to have some content, obviously. You're going to have to know how to make a main point, and you're going to have to know how to say it different ways and make the main point several times within this actual scenario. Because sometimes people aren't listening, even though they look like they're listening to you, their mind may be somewhere else. This is why you have to actually say good things in different ways throughout the scenario while you're speaking to people in that public speaking setting. Now, if you don't do that, then what will end up happening, if you set everything up for 30 seconds or 5 minutes, again, that is good. That's good practice and everything. But if you get good at speaking in public, people will call you out, to come out and speak to their groups, but they're going to give you a certain amount of time. So let me share this with you. I've been on both sides of the fence when it comes to public speaking. What do I mean by that? Well, I've been the guy that was called to actually speak in front of people, right? I've done that numerous times. I also have been the person that create platforms to let people speak in front of people. So I understand that when I create a platform to have people speak in front of people, I don't give 5-minute platforms. You have to speak for a while that's the minimum based on what I actually have going on. So if someone want to speak on the platform I have, and they said, well, I only want 2 minutes. Well, they don't qualify, because you have to be willing to speak for at least 10 minutes and sometime maybe 15 minutes on your business or your product, service, or whatever it may be. And what I found that happened to a lot of people is because even though they may have a book, I do this thing called author showcases. And I do a thing called entrepreneur showcases. And I do things called, business showcases. So I do all these different showcases. And the main purpose of the showcase, when people hear you elaborate on things that you have for sale, this is why a lot of people have a problem getting past the 30-second thing. They're good at the 30-second pitch because they practice it, and only 30 seconds. I mean, do you know how many things we all can do really well for 30 seconds? We can do a whole lot of things good for 30 seconds in a row. We can hold our breath for 30 seconds. We can do a lot of stuff for 30 seconds, right? But see, when you start saying 10 minutes and 15 minutes, now people start backtracking. They don't have a lot of things in order. They can't speak on things long. They don't know how to make a main point. They don't know how to keep making a main point. They don't know how to say it in different ways, because they're not looking at the fact that they need to obviously know their stuff, but they're not looking at the fact of the audience neither. Now, your audience will always have pretty much these three type of people. Now, it's not type of people like character or anything like that. For one of the group of people that you're going to have there are people that know more about that subject than you do, right? And usually those are the people that probably invited you to come speak, right? And you may have some speaker in the audience based on how big the audience is, but that's a small group that know more than you about the topic. Then you're going to have this other group that know probably just as much as you, might not be using the information, so you are more like a confirmation to them when you're speaking to them. And then you have another group that know not don't know as much as you know about that particular subject or topic, right? So you have these people in your audience. So when you have these in your audience, this is why you have to say it in different ways. Because if I know more than you about the subject, then when you say just one or two things, I know what you're talking about. If I know just as much as you do about the topic and you say it a different way, it may have me look at it differently because of how you said it. Now, I thought if I don't know any of what you're talking about, I'm brand new to this thing, and you say it, then you say it in a way that's simple enough or a way that I can understand. I'm like, okay, I got it. I got it. Right. So you don't know what's in the audience as regard, you don't know who that is, but you need to know that these three people or these three scenarios are in the audience all the time. Right. See, for instance, like I said with you, I do author showcases because I've written several different books, So I have other authors do a presentation on their book, right? So I know how to present their book. I know how to present because I've done it. I've done my own for years, and I know how to present books. So when they're talking on a subject, maybe about their book or maybe a book that I've written that's closely related to theirs, I know what they're saying right away. Now, some people that's maybe in the audience or on the virtual or whatever it may be, they don't know about the book, right? They don't know what that means, right? So they don't understand it. So they have to actually get good at explaining it. Now, here's what hurts a lot of people in the speaking when they're speaking in front of people. This is why told you earlier, be yourself, right? That's why I said be yourself. Because people think like I got to get ultra excited or I have to get really, really stiff. And I'm good at for people that, enunciate and pronounce their words real well. That's wonderful, right? But sometimes you get these two different extremes. You get these people that's so methodical and they're good at enunciating and pronouncing words and they move the head the right way, they do everything right, they move the hands right, they they do all that right, and that's good, right? That's really, really good. However, they seem not authentic or they seem very plastic because in all actuality they probably don't do that all the time when they talk, right? They probably don't always have their hands clasped together when they're speaking, but someone told them there's a good idea, don't move your hands, right? Well, then you have this other person, they swinging around, moving their arms and everything. They do all type of stuff. Now, they may not speak like that either when they doing things. But see, this is why you want to be natural when you just being yourself. I use my hands quite a bit, right? So when I'm speaking on me personally, I'm like, yeah, wow, man, I can't believe they did such a thing, right? That type of stuff I'm doing. Well, I talk like that anyway. So when I speak in front of people, I may move my hands and use, that's big. Wow, it was this little, it was up there. Right. I may do things like that because I do that anyway. So I'm more comfortable and more authentic when I speak in front of people. Right. And that's how you have to be. Now, if you don't do all that, you don't have to do all that because that's not what you do anyway. Well, if you are more authentic and stay more true to yourself, then when you're talking to the audiences and you're doing things, you're not so totally focused on walking real slow. Let me put my hands together real slow. Let me look to the left real slow. Wait, count to three. Look to the right real slow. So you're not bogging yourself down with all those techniques, which are important. That you very skilled in that. However, what happened is it's all about the audience. It's not more about you, right? It's all about the content. We're trying to help people get out of their mess. And sometimes when you come out too plastic, too tight, people would almost think, I wonder is that I wonder do they really believe that? Because now you're spending more time on those things than actually delivering the message to me. So keep in mind that I'm more important. And when I say I, people in the audience, we're more important than actually you, right? And you need to think that when you're speaking in front of people. Like I think you're more important than me while I'm delivering this information to you, right? And this is all part of what you want to do. Yeah, I'm important to deliver it, but you're more important to me, right? So I have to be as authentic and transparent as I possibly can because what comes from the heart will reach the heart. So if I try to be something that I'm not, then you might not actually get what I'm saying. But if I try to just be all that I am, then you might get all that I say. And you may get all of the meaning that I said and all of the passion that I said and all of the information that I said. You might say, yeah, I think I can get out of this mess I'm in. Yeah, I understand what he's saying. I think I can actually speak in front of people. I think if I take my time, I can do it, right? I'm going to do it next week. I'm calling them up because, again, this is a business skill. And because it's a business skill, what happens is if you get good at this, people will invite you out to speak. Not to, now it's there's nothing negative about being an MC. I'm not saying it like that, because sometimes you can speak real well and people say, would you be an MC for me? Would you do something at one of my events? But when I'm saying, see, when you're in business and you can speak well, then you have chamber of commerce, you have business groups, you have other companies ask you to come out and speak to their company and speak to their group about what you know, because they see that you're good at it and you're good at speaking. Because keep in mind, a lot of people are afraid to speak, right? They got glossophobia. They don't want to stand in front of nobody talking to them for no 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, right? They said, man, they get nervous. Again, as I stated before, when you get nervous, nervousness is just a sign that you want to do a good job. And that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing, because I don't want you to get in front of people not wanting to do a good job, right? Not wanting to help them get out of a mess. We want to say, I want to help these people get out of a mess, because how about if you're the last person they hear about how to get out of that mess? What would you tell them if you knew you were the last person they would hear about that? Because if they don't hear you, they're going to stay in that mess for the next 10 years, right? If they don't hear you talk about finances, they're going to stay in this financial problem for the next 10 years. If they don't hear you talk about parenting, they're going to mess up their relationship with their kids for the next 10 years. If they don't talk to you about relationships or hear you talk about it, they're going to stay in a bad relationship or get into 15 more bad relationships for the next decade. If you thought that way, how would you approach the time you standing in front of people? Because you're the last one, right? So now you would start saying, hey, dude, here's how you can get out of this. This is how you get out of this mess. This is how you can be in a better relationship. This is how you can get your finances together. This is how you can go back to school. This is how you can, save your money. You come in that way because you're the last person they're going to hear. And because they don't hear you, they're going to be in a mess for the next decade. That's a whole different mentality to have when you speak in front of people than start just making it thinking, look at me, right? Look at how well I can put my hands together and look how well I pause, right? All those different things. That again, that's good, but we're trying to help people get out of their mess because we're saving their life, right? Now, here's something I want you to think about too, because this happens quite often in speaking engagements and speaking arrangements, and something you have to get real good at handling are distractions. Now, I'm not talking about maybe mental distractions you may have, things going on in your life. I'm not talking about those because you have to deal with that, obviously. I'm talking about distractions while you're speaking. And here's what I mean. You have really a couple of different distractions. One distraction based on where you're located, for instance. You may be in a conference room, a hotel that you're doing some things in, and they're working on a different part of the building. That's a distraction that's like out of your control, right? You can't tell them, hey, stop working on the building. I'm trying to do a workshop over here, right? You may have you may be in a different place doing something, and someone opened up the door because they came into the wrong conference room or the wrong room. And they say, hey, is this the right place? While you're talking, right? So you have to handle those distractions. Now, what you want to do is kind of just keep moving, even though a distraction happened. Yeah, everybody heard the door open. Everybody heard the person say, is this the right room? Right? No, it's not the right room. And he goes on out, right? You just keep it moving. You don't say nothing about the person. You try not to give that a lot of attention. Yeah, I know there's a lot of noise going over there. They're making all that noise on the next building over there. They hear the noise too. You just try now, if it's something that's close to you, let's say, for instance, if it's you on this side of the room and you can hear a lot on this side, but it's drowning you out while you talk. On the fly, you might need to make an adjustment and move yourself to the other side of the room and do most of your speaking from that side so that the audience can hear you better because they're doing some work on the other side of that hotel or the other side across the street or whatever they may be doing. Those are out of your control. Sometimes you may have a distraction and it may be an actual person in the audience. Now, keep this in mind. Everyone will not agree with what you're saying. and usually adults are more, they kind of flow with you, even though they may not agree with you. They sit there and look like they engage, even if they're not. But every now and then, you may get somebody that's pretty confrontational or somewhat debatable. This is why you got to be careful in what you say, right? Because you may say something about men or women, old or young, and somebody said, I'm tired of you talking about old people. My mama that old, right? You're like, whoa. Because you think everybody in there young. You may say something like, no need to be having no babies, and you over 40 years old, and then you find somebody that's 72 years old, and, he just got somebody pregnant, he just had a baby. So now they may say something about it because they may feel you attacking them, right? So you have to be very careful. And sometimes that happens. Now, you cannot be attacking someone. You might say, hey, we have to do better with our finances, because a lot of times when you're 30 years old, you mess your money up. And someone may get offended at that, right? So sometime in your audience, this happens more when it's a smaller audience, less than 50. It could be, you might get someone that may be a little irritated. You got to keep in mind, everybody that's in your audience are going through something. And you don't know where they are. So that's why you have to be careful. And that's why you got to keep everything on the subject matter, the topic, the content, and also the audience. That's why you don't say a lot about you, because if you ever been in a place when people talk about themselves a lot, then people start folding their arms and they start making sounds. When here you go again talking about your new watch. Here you go again talking about your car. Here you go again talking about your house. Here you go again talking about who you know. Now the second, third time, people, and you start hearing things like that. Those can be distractions, right? So your job is not to try to put distractions in your scenario. So that's why you have to actually look at it like this, right? I already stated once before in the earlier series that you don't talk negatively about people, right? You don't call them names. You don't call them all these derogatory names. You are really, really hurting yourself calling people derogatory names that gave you an hour of their time, 30 minutes of their time, whatever they gave you, as far as listening to you speak. You really, really done a injustice to them by calling them names, and they just gave you part of their life, right? So you don't want to do that, because see, now you're trying to persuade me to get out of a mess. And one of the hardest things to do is to talk about somebody, call them names, call them stupid, call them ugly, call them dumb, and then say, hey, buy the book that I have. Hey, take the 3 steps that I told you to take. Man, you just called me stupid about 15 times. I'm not listening to you. I can't wait to get up out of here, right? So now it's hard to win that person over to get out of their mess, because they're mad at you for calling them a name, or talking about people, and calling people idiots and stupid, and everybody that look like them are bad. People don't like that, and it doesn't do you any good. And what you do, you turn a bad situation worse. So you have to realize that you can't be up there calling people name. Everybody that don't have a college degree, they're lazy. Now you got half the group in there don't have a college degree. Half the group in there have a husband and wife that doesn't have a college degree. Half the group in there have the mama dad don't have a college degree. Half the group in there have a son or daughter don't have a college degree. So now the whole time for the rest of the 25 minutes, they're mad at you. They're not listening to anything you say. They can't wait till you get done. So now you have just defeated the purpose, because you start seeing all these derogatory things about people. And you're not there for that. You're there to talk me up out of a mess. That's what you're there to do. You don't know how deep in the mess I'm in. You don't know where I am in the mess, how long I've been in the mess. But do me a favor. Talk me up out of it. Let me believe that I can get up out of this thing. Not just emotionally now. So give me some techniques on how to get out of this thing. Like I just used an example just now, right? I said, hey, you got these 3 things, and people saying things. Don't say things bad about people, so that you can actually help persuade them to actually do what you ask them to do that's good for them, right? Well, hopefully you use that the next time you talk. So even though you said, I'm not going to call people names, next time I get in front of people, I'm not going to say everybody that don't have a business is just bad. Because I done been in situations where people, and it's good to be an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, right? But some people are so sold on the fact that everybody should be entrepreneurs, and if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, something wrong with you. Well, no, it doesn't necessarily mean something wrong with you. You just don't want to be an entrepreneur, right? But if you start saying that to people, and here you are at your business meeting trying to convince this person to go in business with you, but you just said all those people that work a job are, stupid, and they don't make no sense. They just don't know what's going on. And you said all that, and now I'm supposed to say at the end, oh, I'm going to listen to you. Yeah, you just called me stupid the whole 30 minutes, but because I work a job, where I've been working a job for 5 years, 8 years. Now I'm supposed to follow what you just said. I'm supposed to try to want to do what you just said, even though you just used all those derogatory terms about me. No, we don't want to do that, right? So you want to make sure that you're not the person that's causing the distractions. You want to make sure you are the person that's actually helping remove distractions. People need to get, when they get done with you, or when you get done speaking, and while you're speaking, they need to believe they can get out of a mess. They need to believe, even though I'm 50 years old and I messed up my money for 30 years in a row, they need to believe that I know I have some strategies, some tips now that I can get out of this mess and start saving me $100, right? They need to believe that I can get out of this mess. I've been through 5 relationships or 4 marriages. They need to believe that, you know what? I can find the love of my life. I can find my soulmate, right? Again, not just hype, right? Not just hype, but I mean actually like, oh, okay, if I change some of this, do this differently, maybe I can find that person that I'm looking for. They need to believe that. They need to walk out of there thinking I can do it, right? And not just thinking it. If I do these 3 steps that he or she has taught me or told me in those 30 minutes, I think I can do it. I think I can lose weight. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they told me if I just drink more water and if I get me this type of container and just did 2 cups in the morning, 2 cups in the afternoon, 2 cups in the evening, if I just do that for 30 days and get myself on track, I probably can start losing the weight that I want to lose. See, that's how people need to walk out when they're done listening to you speak. They don't need to walk out. I'm so tired. I'm talking about people fat, calling me fat, and calling everybody I know fat. See, they don't need to walk out there. They already know they want to lose weight, and then you just call them fat for 30 minutes. No, 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 no. They're not gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna try to get that thing and lose weight. Now I know a lot of people say, well, I'm just trying to tell people the truth. And I just bring it. I just bring it. And sometimes you got to get right in some people's face. Keep in mind, you don't know what people are. And they say it's always easy to attract more bees with honey than vinegar. See, you got to realize that you're speaking honey. Even though I just shared with you, some things aren't good, right? It is bad that the person needs to lose some weight because their health is being challenged and jeopardized because of the weight they have, right? But you need to show me how to do that. Remember, make the proclamation, proclaim it, then explain it, and then describe how to get out of it, right? You said being healthy is great. You got to lose weight. Okay, that's what you proclaim. Explain it. If you keep gaining weight, it's going to mess with your heart. It's going to mess with your kidneys. It's going to mess with your lungs. It's going to mess with your legs. You're going to mess with your blood, your oxygen. Oh, but you start losing weight, your heart will pump better. Oh, really? Yeah. See, now this is how you start doing this. So you got to start walking around the block one time every other day. Oh, okay. So now people feel like I can do that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can do what you said. Yeah, yeah, I can do that. Now, you don't want to get people so hyped up. All you got to do is just believe, y'all. Just believe. All you got to do, believe. Don't do nothing. Just believe. And then people walk out of there and say, man, I've been doing that believing for like the last 20 years and gained 50 pounds doing the just believing. You got to give someone instructions, right? Like I shared with you, and when you're trying to persuade someone, think of the 3 I's. You want to inform people, inspire people, and invite people. Inform them on how to do something, right? Inspire them. Speak from your heart so you can touch their heart, right? Give them some life. And then invite them to take the challenge or take the steps. That's how you get people persuaded, because what they're doing is more beneficial for them than it is for you. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to persuade them by what we say to do something better in their life for themselves. We want them the greatest benefit is not them doing it for me. The greater benefit is that they do it for them. That's how you need to look at it when you speak in front of people. So here's something for you, right? I said that you have to say things different ways. Our stories. You got to know how to use stories to help people get your main point, right? The central theme, what you're trying to say, understanding the message. So sometimes you have to use stories. Now, stories really for me can fall into 2 categories, fictional and non-fictional. So let's use a non-fictional story, meaning it's true. Now, if you know the story is true, now I would not use a lot of stories if I don't know all the players involved. If you don't know all the players involved, what do I mean by that? Let's say, for instance, something happened in the news and somebody tripped and fell and hit their head, but you don't really know. You just know what they told you on the news, right? So when you try to use that story, you really don't know all the players, meaning you don't know all the behind the scenes and what else happened. You don't know if the person was pushed. You don't know if the person was intoxicated. You have no idea. So when you're trying to use that story, you may not have all the facts. Now, if you do use a story like that, then you need to state where you actually got the story. I read in the newspaper. I read on the internet. I seen this over here. I heard on the news, right, last Friday that this happened. So what you're doing is like a footnote to a book. You're giving credence. This is where I got this information from. So if this information wrong somewhere, I only got the information from that part. That's all the information I have. I don't know all the players involved in the story. Hopefully that makes sense to you. Now, if you're going to use another story, which is called a fictional story, I use a lot of fictional stories, and I tell people they're fictional, right? I may say the dog chased the cat, right? I may say it was a man that worked at the grocery store, right? Now I didn't say a man in particular. I didn't say a store in particular, right? I just said a man worked at the grocery store, right? So this is and you have to announce that this is just a story. Hey y'all, here's a story for you, right? This guy was working at the grocery store, and then he's working at the grocery store. He met the love of his life when she came in to do her groceries, right? Now that's just a story. There's no man named Joe and no woman named Jane in this story. This is just the story that you kind of made up. So you need to tell people that's a made up story. You know, you may use a story and you may use animals. You may use, the dog said to the cat, hey, it's hot outside, right? Or whatever, right? But you using that as a story. But the purpose of the story is to emphasize your main point. It's to make the point that you're trying to make, the central theme of the message, right? To help persuade people to do something good for themselves, right? So that's the point of the stories. So if you use a factual story or you use a non-factual story, which is a fiction story, then you want to make sure you address that. But the purpose of the story is to actually make the point that you're trying to make. That's the purpose of the story. The purpose of the story, if you have 5 minutes to talk, you can't be using 4 minutes and 30 seconds to talk about the story. So, well, I still need more time. Need more. No, no, no. So whatever your story is, again, the story is there to help add something. I call it added. You just bonus. It's a bonus something that you adding to it. Another way that you kind of add to to what you have, saying something better, saying something that's bad, or turning bad into good, and making your point and helping persuade people, is using examples. You may use an example. Now, if it's a negative example, you always want to try to use yourself, right? If it's a positive example, use the people in the audience, right? So you just say, for instance, let's use an example. Man, when I went through a bankruptcy 3 times, right? That may be you using that yourself. Don't say you so stupid, you're going to go through bankruptcy 3 times talking about other people, right? No, no, no. Use you when it's more negative, right? Or if it's negative, say us or we. Sometimes we just make so many mistakes with our money, we just don't know what we're doing with our money. Now, you may really be good with money now, but put you together with them, right? Boy, we just, you know what? Sometime in our parenting, we do some bad things when we parent. See, us, right? We. So when it's something negative, use us, right? Don't use you. You always messing up as a spouse. You always messing up, as an employee, right? You don't do that. Hey, sometimes we have problems, being really excited for work. Again, it may not be you, but you've been in that place before where you weren't excited for work. It makes people feel that when you're speaking to them in a public setting, that, you're in this with me, right? That even though you may be better, maybe you got your finances together, right? But I'm in the audience and maybe I need help with my finances. But when you say, this is what we have to do, see, we have to actually start writing down everything we need to do with our money. Now, see, your money is not my money, but when I said we and us and our, you feel like we on a team. But that's what you want to do when you speak in front of people. People need to feel like somebody's with them, right? And when the speaker is saying things like that, you don't understand that the people in the audience think you in this with me. I messed up money for the last 10 years and I feel pretty bad about it. But when you say we can do it, or this is what we need to do, or this is what we do sometimes, I feel that I'm not in this thing alone. And see, this is what's going to give me confidence and give me belief that I can get out of this mess I'm in. This is going to give me confidence and belief that I can get into a better relationship, handle my money better, get my health together. Yeah, you may look healthy. You get in good shape, you figure real nice, all those things. But you have to still say, sometimes we don't want to exercise, even though you exercise all day, right? Well, sometimes, boy, I just tell you, boy, you just don't want to put that cake down. You want to eat 5 more pieces of that cake. And that's what we want to do sometimes. We just want to eat all the cake up, right? Even though you don't do that, right? You're more disciplined than that today. But at one time, you ate the whole cake, right? But you want to make people feel that I can get out of this mess, right? Yeah. So now when they walk out of there, man, the speaker said we can do it. Like one time they were overweight. And they said that, you know what? We can eat less cake and then we can do it differently and we can walk around the block. Now, you're not going to actually be there walking around the block with them. But trust me, when they walk around the block, they're going to think you there with them. They go, I took my speaker with me, right? Because now it wasn't about you. You made it about the content and them, but you didn't make me feel bad because of my situation. You didn't make me feel bad. Sometimes, and I use this as an example, like a church, for instance. And you go to church, they make everybody in the church feel bad. You bad, you bad, you bad. All y'all sinners. All y'all going straight to hell. Every one of you. Right? So you sitting up there, oh my God. I'm, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell. Oh, no. Right? You feel all bad, right? So you got the whole audience feeling bad, right? Some people might say, well, I'm going to get my stuff together. But some people walk out of there like, man, I'm no good, man. I'm just no good. Why you no good? Because, I didn't go out there and feed the homeless last weekend. People don't need to feel like that, right? So you want to make people feel, but you don't want to make people feel good. They out there robbing banks. Yeah, now you just what you're doing is really good. You're robbing banks, right? Now you keep it up, you can rob bigger banks. No, you're not trying to make them feel good about doing something that's hurting them either. But what you want to do is make them feel good. Like, I understand sometimes we get desperate. We looking for money. Man, you start thinking about robbing a bank, right? But you know what? This is what you have to do. You got to find you a legitimate business, because when we find us a legitimate business, then we can actually earn money with our legitimate business. Or we can find us a better job, or find us 2 jobs, then we can have the money that we need. That's a whole different paradigm than saying, see, something wrong with you for thinking about robbing a bank. Something wrong with you. You're going to go straight to jail, and jail going to have you in there, and you're going to stay forever. Nobody want to hear that. So you have to actually turn something bad into something good. And that's some of the things that it takes for you to do by using examples. I'm an example guy. I'm a story guy. So I like using a lot of examples to emphasize my point. My examples, and you can use the same thing, my examples is how I say what I said in a different way. My examples are how I say what I say again, so you don't think I'm acting like, did he say that again? Right? I said it again, but I use an example this time. So you can use things like parables, metaphors, right? These are things that you can use as adding to what your message is. Sometimes your message can start off as a story. You can start off and say there was a man and a woman walking down the street. Man and woman looked at each other and boom, they got married. Yeah. And they found love of their life, right? You can use that to start off your story that, you know what? There's somebody walking in the same direction as you, right? So that's how you use examples and how you use stories. Now, another thing that you can use to help emphasize your point, help you with persuading people to do something good for themselves, is by using statistics. Now, you got to be careful with statistics because a lot of people don't like math, right? So if you start saying 42% of the people, 18% of the people, 25% of the people, you done lost a lot of people, right? So sometimes with statistics, you have to break statistics down so it can be as simple as possible. So you wouldn't say 80% of the people, lose all their money by the time they're 30 years old. Because 80%, I don't know what 80% looks like sometimes. So sometimes you may have to break it down and say 8 out of 10. Now, see, that's still kind of negative, right? So you have to flip that and say 20% of the people save their money well after the age of 30. Now, we're going to go over the 5 ways on how that happened. Like, oh, okay. It's because we can be in that group with the 20% to learn how to save money after we're 30 years old. Now, even though 80% are failing and losing money after 30 years old, and then I didn't say you probably part of 80%, but you don't know how to handle money. You need to get your stuff together, right? Even now you feel bad. The way that I said it differently, you feel like, yeah, I want to be part of the 20%. Yeah, I'm over 30. I messed up some money. But hey, you know what? He just said we can 20% of us, and can get out of this financial hole. And these are the 5 things they did, and we can do these 5 things to get out of this hole. That's a totally different way of saying it, but then that's statistics. Again, you don't want to use a lot of statistics because, see, statistics are used based on whoever did the actual survey, right? And a lot of times you don't know the number. So if I said 80% of the people celebrate the holiday, like, wow, that's a lot of people, 80%. But if you found out that I only interviewed 10 people and 8 of them said they do and 2 said they didn't, that's 80%, but I only asked 10 people. You get what I'm saying? I didn't ask a lot of people. So that's why you may see, if you read some things, usually it's in small print, and someone says 80% did this or 50% like this, and then you see we phone call 1,000 people. Oh, okay, that's only 800 people, right? It's not like 80% of the whole country, or 80% of the state, or 80% of the gender, or 80% of the age group, right? But you only talk to 100 people. Well, I mean, it's not like everybody think that way. So when you use statistics, you want to make sure you're using them simple enough to help make your point, but at the same time persuade people that they can do it. Because in most statistics, a lot of times people use statistics to scare people. Uh, 80% of mothers over 40 years old, gain 50 pounds. Oh, I can't get to 40. Oh, no, I can't get pregnant. No, no, no. I'm going to gain 500 pounds. See, they use statistics to scare people because they're trying to, usually it's a con in there. That's my opinion. There's a con in there, right? So if you buy these nice little pills for me for $1,000 a pill, it won't happen to you. Well, see, that benefits you more than it benefits them. And again, we're trying to say some things and share some things with people to help benefit them more than it benefit us. When they act on it, they get the greater benefit, not us as the speaker, because we are just the messenger, and the message is larger than the messenger. The message can do more things good for the people than the messenger. The message can go a long way, live a long time, live longer than the messenger. But if you don't understand that, then you start doing some things scaring people. We want to talk people up, right? We want to talk them up, not, just try to uh, charm them. We're not trying to do that. We want to talk them up because we need to talk them up out of a mess. We need to talk that mother up out of a mess so she can be a better mother, right? We need to talk that father out of that mess so he can be a better father. We need to talk that employee out of a mess so he or she can be a better employee. We need to talk that boss out of a mess so they can be better employers, right? We need to talk that church member out of a mess so they can be a better church member. Talk that fraternity brother, that sorority sister out of a mess so they can be better sorority sisters and brothers and all these things, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to talk people up. We're not trying to talk people down. We're not trying to talk them down just because we had the mic. We're trying to talk them up because we had the mic. They need to hear that they can get out the mess that they're in. That's why your message is so important for them to actually hear, and then they can do it. They can't do what you don't know, right? And then it's kind of hard to do something when you hear it, if you hear it in a negative connotation. In order to make a positive impact to people, you got to be positive, right? But again, not positive telling people do nothing, have a lot. No, you don't want to fool people. That's not what we in doing. We got to tell people the truth, right? You got to tell people the truth, and the truth has two sides, right? And you hear me say this on many things that I talk about when it comes to truth. One side of truth, you have the reality. The reality is you do need to lose weight right now. The reality is you need to stop that habit. The reality is you do need to save money. The reality is, those are realities, right? But that's only half of the truth. The other half of the truth is what's the possibility. If you start doing this, you can lose that 20 pounds. If you start doing this, you can save you $100. If you start doing this, you can be in better and healthier relationships, right? So you got to give the whole truth. Yeah, you got to give the reality, but you also have to share the possibility. If you just sharing the possibility and looking over the reality, the person still won't probably end up winning because now they're going to live in a fantasy. If you only give the reality and never give the possibility, then the person probably not going to try because they always see this reality and all this negative and all these bad things about themselves. So you have to give the reality as well as the possibility. That's how you give the whole truth when you're sharing it in a message with people. Yeah, they need to get out of a mess. Yeah, but you got to identify you in a mess, man. Hey, lady, you in a mess right now. But guess what? If you can get out of that mess by doing these two things first. Do this every Monday and every Friday, right? You trying to show me how to get out of the mess. Proclaim it, explain it, then describe how to get out of it. Those are the things you want to do. So my time is about winding down. Let me promote this guy one more time here before I close up for those who probably didn't hear me earlier in the show. So again, if you want me to promote your business on this show, or my other show, you can contact me at fullofpurposemedia@gmail.com. And then I'll give you my information that we can talk about and see if my show fit what you have going on. All right, so I'm promoting Mr. Emmett Farmer. And are you 65 and older or know someone who is in need of Medicare assistance? Mr. Emmett Farmer is a licensed life and health insurance producer and an independent insurance broker. He can be reached at 773-908-9425 or efarmer2, the number 2, at efarmer2 at ameritech.net. Mr. Emmett Farmer specializes in Medicare plans for seniors 65 and older. Also, if you are disabled and have Medicare, he can help you as well. He is licensed in the state of Illinois, Texas, and in the process of being licensed in other states also. If you are 65 and older, or if you will become 65 within the next 6 to 12 months, contact Mr. Emmett Farmer to learn more about your available options. Again, for more information, contact Mr. Emmett Farmer at 773-908-9425. That's 773-908-9425. Or efarmer2, that's EFARMER, the number 2, efarmer2 at ameritech.net. You also get a free consultation by mentioning that you heard about Mr. Emmett Farmer and his business here on the Great Business Skills Show. Host Dr. Anthony L. Gant here on IntellectualRadio.com and iHeart Station, and he can help you with that. And if you know someone that needs his assistance, then get in contact with him. Might be a mom, dad, grandma, grandfather, aunt, uncle that might be that age that might need some assistance with that. Then get in contact with them so you can get that information to your loved one or your friend as well. So let's do a recap before I close it out. So when we want to turn something good into something bad, right? We learn how to actually get over distractions. Like we want to make sure that we don't say a lot of things bad to cause distractions. But then if we have some things that's out of our control when it comes to distractions, we need to make the adjustment. Don't give the distraction a lot of attention. Just kind of keep going on with your message. We also talked about making your point. You need to make your point. You got a main point or a central theme. Main point is the table, and sub points are the legs to the table. So the sub points hold up the main point. And based on how much time you have to speak, will determine how many sub points you have, how many, and how long you're going to talk about each sub point, and also the main point. We also talked about, using examples and using stories and things of that nature to help emphasize your point and help you say something good in a different way. And also we talked about using statistics and be careful with that and use it pretty well. Include yourself in when it's something negative, or just say you when it's something negative. And when it's something positive, just use them or use us. We can do it. Let's go get it done. We all have problems like this, but we all can make it, right? Include yourself in there when it's something negative, so people won't feel like they're alone. And then you can also include yourself sometime when it's something positive, so people won't feel that they're alone, that they can get out of their mess and you with them. You right along with them with what you said. Also remember, the message is always bigger than the messenger, and we want to make sure that you never think that you're bigger than the message. You're always smaller than the message, at least you should be, because the message should always be bigger than you as a messenger. So with all that being said, keep in mind that great people like yourself, great business people aren't born great. They're made great by having great business skills. And I appreciate you taking the time with me, and I'll see you next time. All right, Facebook, thanks for being on. Do appreciate it. I hope you learned something. And do me a favor, share this on this show or this video with other people. If you want to get in contact with me, you can. You could have been anywhere tonight. You could have been doing